Happy Monday, everybody. I cannot believe it's May already. I feel like, I don't know, maybe the PCS has just like put us into time warp, but
Mhm.
it's freaking May. It's
It's
gonna
gonna be
be
May.
May.
Do you see
Ah,
now? Do you see now how our brains work? They
no,
are
no, the freaky
insane.
twin we'll get like, okay, we first of all, let's like give you a little synopsis about what we're talking about this week, and then we're gonna go into a little bit of freaky twin stuff that's going on because it's getting crazy, y'all. But um coffee loves our themes. And this month, May, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And listen, as moms to 8 beautiful children, we did not squeak by postpartum depression. We have gone through it all. I feel like I've hit a little bit of all of them. I had the rage, I had the anxiety, and I had the depression. Like I feel like at this point,
Yeah,
I'm like,
I think so.
I've gone through them all. So we are going to talk about kind of like how to pull yourself out of that dark spot when you get in it. If you have listened to Coffee for a while, you can go back. We have talked about mental health. We have talked about what it feels like when you're in those moments. So we're not gonna what do they say? Like what like the turn that wheel again. I don't know. There's some
I don't know.
saying
Our
out
twin
there.
thing's not working right
Yeah, it's not.
now.
But there is something out there that you can listen to on Coffee that'll talk about mental health. Today we're going to give you the encouragement to pull yourself out of there. But the freaky twin thing is once we have moved here, our houses have just turned into
A
like
shit
we have
show.
we have a house over our head, but not to say there are no problems with it. So we've done like the flooding thing. I think we talked to you guys a little bit about that, about how our
Mhm.
houses keep having like water issues. Well, then yesterday, Felicia was like, I think my air conditioner is broken. I was like, of course it is, because I think the same for mine. And I was too lazy to get off my couch and investigate the problem. And I just let my husband suffer because I'm anemic. So to me, honestly, it wasn't terrible. It was just like, oh, it's a little stuffy, but I'm fine. Um, but yesterday I was cleaning up my backyard and I walked by my AC unit and it was frozen. And I texted Felicia on Sunday. I think mine might be frozen. And sure enough, I texted her. I was like, guess what's frozen? So we are going through it with the houses, but that was just a quick synopsis of what is like the freaky twin thing is getting weird. I think we're both kind of getting like over it, but yes, let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about when you get to that rough place, how do you pull yourself out?
I don't
How
think
do
there's
you
like
look
a
at the
one.
bright side?
Yeah, I don't think there's like a one answer. And I think that's the hard thing about mental health is like sometimes I know when I struggle with my mental health, I have struggled with depression and anxiety. I went through all of the postpartum things, depression, anxiety, rage, all of those things. Um, but I think there's sometimes it's hard to be like, why do I feel the way I do? And it's hard to pinpoint that exact feeling. Like, why do I feel sad today? Why do I feel anxious? Like, sometimes my heart will just like start, and I'm like, I'm so anxious about what? Like, what is it? Like, what is it? What's gonna happen? And sometimes it's hard to pinpoint it. So, how do you sit there and talk about your mental health when you don't know exactly what it is that's triggering it? I think that's a hard spot to kind of focus, right? And then you bring in children to it. And it's like, well, I don't want to be viewed as like a bad parent, right? I don't want to be like, I'm struggling so bad. I'm not happy. I think that's a scary line because you're like, I love my child so much, but I'm not feeling happiness. Or I love my child so much. I'm so anxious, right? Like with
Mhm.
KB. And you're like, oh, he's going to die in 2 seconds. And it's like, but how do you approach your spouse or your like doctor without giving them scary thoughts, right? Like I don't have these thoughts of like hurting myself or something like that, but it's just like, I don't feel like I'm supposed to feel. Like something is
Yeah.
not, clicking for me. And I don't know how to approach that without seeming like I'm about to go off the deep end.
I think that's like one of the hardest things in our society is that we went from like the 90s where mental health was taboo into so quickly where it was so accepted, right? But there's
Mm-hmm.
still this gray zone where it's like either you're happy or you want to unalive yourself. And it's like there is a middle there. It's like I'm
Yeah.
happy. I wouldn't even say it's like unhappiness. It's just like sometimes I just feel unfulfilled. So I love being a mother, and those moments where it's like you feel like you're being ungrateful or unhappy, I think they're coming from moments of like unfulfillment, because it's like you can only be so happy listening to the same Coco Melon episode
I
every
am
morning. You
never
know what I
happy
mean?
listening to
But you know what I
that.
mean? Like you can only take so much of it to where it's like like when we lived in Linden Oaks, it was kind of like the same thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the thick of just, depression and stuff like that. And then also you have spouses that are trained. I was actually talking about this with my niece. She suffers from mental health. She has anxiety, depression, ADHD, and I'm pretty sure a little bit of bipolar. And we were talking on the way home, driving her to my house, and she, even an observation from a 15-year-old, she was like, well, uncle is trained not to have emotions. And I'm like nail on the head, because that's exactly what it is. I remember telling my husband one time, like, I'm suffering really bad from postpartum depression. He was like, why? You have nothing to be sad about. And it's like, in theory, yes, I know that. I can look at my newborn and understand that
Yeah.
this should be the happiest time in my life. And my other kids, I love them so much, but it has nothing to do with feeling love. It has to do with like a chemical imbalance right now. Like I'm not feeling okay. And it's hard to try to express those things. Like you said, when people think like, oh gosh, we have to watch her because what if
Yeah.
she's left alone in the bathroom too long? What's she doing in there? Or it's like, well, what do you have to be sad about? There's no like, well, talk to me about it. Like, what's going on? Tell me about
Yeah.
it. What are you struggling with? And I think
Well,
that's go
I
ahead.
think it's also hard to notice the signs of that, right? When you don't talk about it or you don't see it, or like it's not talked about at all in my family, like at all. And so like when I went through postpartum depressions, I had boys back to back. They are 13 months apart, literally to the day. And I was struggling. I was struggling very hard. One was colicky, one didn't sleep. And I was just like, I was in the trenches. And I went through it for a while. And then I finally came to my husband and I was like, it's to the point where like we gotta talk to, I need help. Like I have to get out of this funky feeling, like whatever this is, like I have to get out of it. And he was like, you seem fine to me. And I was like, that's the problem. Like I can put on the smile and
That's what's scary.
I'm yeah, like I can take care of my kids and nothing is ever for me, like my mental health is just for me. Like it's just in my head what I'm feeling. I'm never going to like lash out on you. You're not going to see me like in a corner crying. Like it's not none of that for me. I'm like, I'll show up every day. I'll take care of my kids. I'll do the things that I need to do. But just like in my head, it's like this raging battle of like,
Chaos.
like typical anxiety type thoughts, right? More so anxiety for me. But, and so when you don't recognize that or you don't know how to act to it, you're just kind of like, I asked him, I was like, are you going to be upset with me if I need help? Like, is that like, are you going to be like, oh my God, like I can't leave my wife alone? And I was scared. I was like, it's not something that's talked about in my family.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to take it. And I don't know how it's going to be, looked at or how I'm going to be judged, but like, I just know I need some help. And so, we had to talk to our doctor and all of those things. And much better now, and I don't take any medication for it anymore and things like that. So I don't want you to be like, oh, you were medicated. Like, yeah, sometimes you need help. Sometimes you need help.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Like,
yeah,
I think
for me, it was like, I wanted to be able to like find out how to regulate it. And I think I'm still in that, right? Like, what is it for me that like, is it coloring? Is it drinking coffee? Is this how I kind of calm it? And for me, it's reading. Yeah. That's one of my biggest things is like, I can lose sight of everything going on in the world. Like I don't feel anxious. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel sad. I don't feel angry. I am like completely soaked into my book.
Do you want to know something that I read actually though recently this week? That reading.
You read It Happened One Summer, right?
No, it's just like a statistic that I read.
Oh.
That reading the way like that you read is a trauma response.
Of course it is. Shut up.
No, I saw that and I was like, not the time. I'm not saying it.
That is on childhood trauma, my friends.
Listen, so I love that you said like that your family doesn't talk about it, because in my family, it was talked about, but it was talked about in the sense of like, there's something wrong with you. So my dad is bipolar, and y'all, my dad is bipolar, like scary. Like we were talking to my niece and she was telling us like how she had these happy memories of this one particular memory when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And, my dad was an alcoholic and bipolar at the same time and did not take medicine when he really should have. But she was telling us, oh my gosh, he was so funny. Like I had like all these great memories of him. And we were like, because we shielded you. Like we would see when it was going bad. Like we could see when his happy mania was slipping into like scary mania. So whenever I would feel those moments in myself, my mom is depressed. Like she gets depressed super easy. My granny gets super depressed really easy, but they're all quick to be like, I need a Xanax. I need a Xanax. And so when I felt those things in my early 20s, I'm like, well, I just need to get on medicine. Right. And this is not to say like, you should not be on medicine.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
my 15-year-old niece has to like medicine. Give her medicine. She has to be on it. Myself, when I was 22, I was like, I've got to figure this out. So when I went on them though, because that's all I knew was I felt like a zombie. Like I felt like even things that make me happy, not there, but I wasn't sad either. It was just like nothing.
Limbo.
Yeah, it was just, there was nothing there. And listen, if you have to take medicine, I want you to keep taking that medicine because you deserve to be here. And sometimes, that is what's keeping you here. For myself, I found that I really like to.
Do you have a little one facing deployment? Well, I have the perfect resource for you. Kylie and the Deployment Wall is a short story to help children understand and cope with the absence of a loved one. As a military kid, Kylie is faced with her dad's deployment. But when her mom thinks of a way to keep them connected, Kylie finds comfort in knowing that he is never far after all. Kylie and the Deployment Wall is available on Amazon.
So like today I finally I told my husband, I feel myself slipping. And if you'll clean out the garage for me before you start the cycle break or the cycle, I promise I will go work out in it. And so we were day 2 into cycle and, I went and worked out and y'all, I felt so good after. I felt like, oh my God, I remember why I love doing this now.
Yeah, it's the endorphins, right?
Yes,
like my
so
sister's
good.
in medical school, and like I'll run all of these like scenarios by her, right? She sends me, by the way, if you have a family member that you're close to that's in medical school, then I get some of the most craziest freaking photos. I was like, I don't want to see like this liver like outside of the body. Like, thank you, but no. And she's like, it's so cool. Look at the blood vessel. And I was like, I'm not zooming in on that thing. But it'll be cool because we'll talk about different things, like we are very vocal with our mental health to each other. And my sister and I are very close. Like we've had, your typical spouse had a sister does, but we're very close. And so like, we'll go through these moments and she's like, this helps with your anxiety. This helps with this. It's like, she's over here like diagnosing me and all these things, but it's like, I don't think it's bad if you need to take medication. That's not what we're saying. If that's what it takes for you to feel better and do the things, and that's for you. But for us, it was finding something that was more similar for us to kind of help. So my reading, it's big for me. Like I need to be able to sit in my books and lose myself in the books. Working out, I've worked out, my arm is dead, but it releases those endorphins for you. And it like, for me, that's enough. Like for me, that will pull me out of a slump. For me, that will like cause me to find like whatever it is that gives me my mood boost.
I noticed when I get up in the morning and I get dressed and I do my hair and I put on a little bit of makeup, I feel so much better about myself when my house is like picked up and it's productive. Like today, I had a super productive day and I'm like on cloud 9. I got up, I got my husband's food ready for tomorrow for work. I got dinner ready. I made breakfast. My house is clean. I have one load of laundry. All my laundry in my house is done, put away, clean. I have one load. You know what I mean? Things like that. And so I think society makes it seem like you have to have these huge wins, right? Like, oh, I tackled depression. I'm here to tell you that if you have depression, you're never probably going to tackle it. You're going to have to learn how to cope with it. And if that means that you have to give yourself one day of laying on the couch and watching a sad TV show so you can get that cry out, when you have that cry stuck right here and you're like, I've got to get this out. I remember so many times after having my babies, and now this is more attributed to hormone, like going crazy, but I remember it would be about 4 days after having them, I would feel it. And I'm like, I told my husband one time, listen, I'm going to start crying and I'm okay. I want you to know I'm okay, but I have to cry right now. And it's like this like gut cry. And after that, I was fine. But ever since I was about 14, I had these days where I'm sad and I can't tell you.
I think you have to, I wonder if it's like a woman thing, really, because
Maybe.
like I have those. I called Cody the other day and I was like, I don't know why, but I need to cry. Like, I don't know what it is, but I just need to let you know that I might start crying right now. Don't talk about the baby. I will definitely cry. Like, I was like, something's not, I just need a good cry. And I was like, I'm not like hurt or anything like that, but I can just feel like I look at the stoplight and my eyes water and I'm like, what is happening? It's just finding that coping mechanism. Society has marked it so far to the left, right?
Taboo,
either you have it and you are a miserable person, or you have it and you're on medication, and there's no in between. There's like, something's wrong with you. These aren't normal thoughts. Like, you can't have, and not to say that they're normal thoughts, but like, people do struggle with these. Like, people, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, these things happen and you can talk about it with your doctor, with your friends. And I think that's an important part.
Yeah. You have to surround yourself with people who understand. I went to the beach and I told Felicia, like, I have a coffee post coming up for May because we're going to talk about mental health in May. And y'all, like, my intrusive thoughts they are crazy. Like, literally, I went to the beach and we're on the balcony and like, I was like shaking the thing. Like, is this sturdy? Like, I'm on the 10th floor. Ocean front, like it's held up to hurricanes, but what if my toddler, like what if my baby just like bloop, falls down? Like, that's not normal.
That's funny that you say that though, because I was thinking I think they get worse with motherhood. I never asked for help or anything until I was my third baby in. I was like, I never felt like I needed anything until I was my third baby in. And I think it gets overwhelming, right? Because your hormones are a mess, and I have like, problems as it is. And so I think it's very hard, whether it's your anxiety, my anxiety that goes through me thinking about my children and the things that could happen, like, and it's so bad. I was like, I don't know. My son broke his arm and I was like, oh my God, it's getting cut off. Like, where
she called me and she's like sobbing. She's like, we're getting rid of the trampoline. She had just bought a brand new one too. It was sitting in her garage. She's like, we're taking it back. We're never having one again.
It's still in the box in my garage because I'm still scared. And he's been on a trampoline since then. But it's like, I think they get worse because my thoughts are no longer for myself, but they're also encircling my children. So like, now my anxiety has gone from living inside of me to like I don't want to say projecting it onto my children, but now like, I take their fears, right? Like, I take, okay, not only could I get run over by a car, but now all three of my children could get run over by a car. Not only could I get in a car accident, but now the school bus could get in a car accident.
Literally, when I'm driving down the road, I'll like think to myself, like, okay, what side do I want to get T-boned on? Like, if they take my side, I'll be probably out, but KB sits behind me. But also, like, if they hit on the other side, that's more of my kid. So he's in a pretty good car seat and I'm older. So just hit me on this, like that. I know they're not normal thoughts, but they are. Like, motherhood puts a whole nother perspective into your head where it's like, you're just watching your surroundings nonstop. And unfortunately, it's never like best case scenario. Like, ever. It's always just like the terrible
I tell my kids, because like the rule of thumb is like, you want your child to listen when you tell them to do something, right? And a lot of the times when my kids don't, I tell them, my friend's like, you shouldn't say that, but I was like, if it's a car, it would have hit you. If it's a snake, it would have bit you. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. And I was like, that's why it's important for you to listen to me when I tell you, because you never know what it is, right? And he's like, you shouldn't really scare them with like death all the time. And I was like, but that's like the reality of things, right? Like, if you walk out into a street, you could get hit by a car. And like, I'm telling you not to walk out into the street for that reason, but that's where my brain is most of the time. Like, it's on these, and my mom, she does the same thing. She's no help. I'm like, if my kids are outside, they have a pool in their backyard. I was like, somebody has to be outside. Like, they can't walk around. Like, what if it's just one slip and they're in, and I'm not a great swimmer. Like, I'm going to drown and we're going to all drown. And that's it. Everybody's going to be floating in the backyard. Like, that's how it happens. And so I think if you don't learn to navigate it, or you're new to it, like you say, you didn't go through it in your 20s, right? But you started going through postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. It's a lot scarier because I've never had these thoughts. I've never had these feelings. I've never had these emotions. And not only am I a new parent, I'm a seasoned parent, but it's like, I still have these thoughts about like all over, right? My kids are in school and I can't help but think like, what if this happens? What if I put popcorn in his lunch and he chokes to death and I'm not there to save him? What if he has an asthma attack at school and he doesn't have his inhaler? And what if she, like, I don't know.
You spiral so quick. So
and so if you're not taught it's not talked about, nor is it taught. Like, how do I deal with this? How do I not think my child's bus is going to flip over when it turns the corner? Like,
well, yeah. And then sometimes you're kind of like met with realities. So like, it's easy to talk yourself down most of the time when you're in like a spiral, right? But then sometimes things happen and you're like, see, this is why I am the way you are. I am because like my son got left on the bus on a 7-degree day in Colorado. And like, I was like, he's gone. Like this is why. And I'm on the phone with my husband and he is like, calm down. I was like, you don't get to tell me to calm down right now. Like my kid is gone. But yeah, there's just this gray zone that we all linger in where it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like people sometimes say that they have like this, like some type of mental health illness to fit in. I feel like that's it seems like going on right now in our culture where it's like, oh, well, I struggle with this and that. And it's like, but do you? Because if you do, then I want to be an ally for you. But if you don't, like, I hope that you wouldn't just say it to have attention, because it's being so minimalized now and normalized in our culture that there's people who are really struggling with it. I'm 30, I'll be 34 in June, and I am lucky to have gotten a grip on it, but I have been struggling since I was 14. Like there would be days where I would wake up and I was just sad and I wouldn't know how to explain or know why I was sad. I just know I was literally just like, I wouldn't come out of my room. I would cry all day in there. I wouldn't let people in. My mom would be like, are you okay? What's going on? And I will never forget my mom trying to be so supportive and my stepdad being like, what are you upset about? There's nothing to be upset about. Get out of your room or stop. Like almost like I was like putting on this charade for attention. And I think that's what hurt even more, because it's like, I don't know. And I'm telling you from a true place in my heart that I don't know what's wrong, but something is something is wrong with me. And I'm just trying to navigate it in my own safe space. And so if you need to seclude, I mean, if you're a mom, it's a little bit harder, but for me, like when I'm having hard days.
Are you looking to be a bigger part of the coffee community? Well, we've created the Coffee Pot for just that. Here we are sharing exclusive bonus content. You can receive early access to video podcasts, exclusive posts, live video chats, meetups for the group, book drops, meal planning, and more. Not to mention a huge community of friends. You can subscribe for $9.99 a month on our Facebook, Patreon, or our website. Visit coffeeconfessions.com to learn more.
It's like, if you have to put your phone on do not disturb, like let your friends know, like, hey, listen, I'm taking a mental health day. I let them know you're okay, but like, I'm okay, but put it on do not disturb. Like you don't have to have constant connection to everybody all the time. If you need that, I think a lot of times from motherhood, it stems from being burnt out. I know when I am burnt out, the next step is that I'm going to get depressed. Like it's coming. And so if you notice like, okay, I'm feeling a little burnt out, then like, see what you can take off your plate. Does this laundry have to get done right now? No. Well, I'll be okay if it sits here today, tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be fine. Learn. My son had an IEP meeting and they were talking about, well, he might need to chunk his work. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? What is chunking? And she was like, well, your son has an emotional, social, developmental delay. If I give him 20 problems that his classmates can do, but that 20 problems is emotionally, like he cannot digest 20 problems, then we're going to start with 5. So take the same thing for yourself. Like if your to-do list is like, oh, no, I'm going to spiral. I'm going to go into like an anxiety, like war in my head, like pick 3 things and then see how you're feeling in the afternoon. If you still feel like shit, sit on the couch, grab a glass of wine, make a snack, and just chill. And I don't think that society says that enough. I think we're told, oh, you need medicine. Oh, you need to go to therapy, which great. I love therapy. I love going to therapy, but mental health is not a one size fits all. It's individual. Everybody's mental health is different and everybody has to be treated differently for them. And so you have to figure out what helps you feel better. If medicine doesn't help you feel better, then you have to figure out what the next thing is, because it's not my job to make sure Felicia is like
Excuse me. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No,
It is
let me
literally
finish.
your job.
It's not my job to make sure that you're figuring out what works best for your mental health. Like I can't do that for you. You have to be able to do that for yourself. So, but like at the same time, like I can walk beside you. I can encourage you. I can be like, look at this. I saw this book at Barnes and Noble's, like you should check it out or whatever.
So when I get in trouble for spending, it's because she said, look at this. She sent me
Listen.
the new It Ends With Us book, like the
I
pretty
wanted it so
cover.
bad.
And I was like, why send it
But
to me?
like even over spring break, like I sent her $5, like, hey, go get a coffee. Like I know this is what you like to do. So go do that.
Yeah.
You can be that supportive person for your friends, but you can't, I don't think you can enable somebody to stay in a dark place. Be the person that's helping pull them out or tell your friends, like, I'm struggling. Like, please help me. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think on both of those aspects is, for one, you know how you said like people claim to have it and they don't really have it. But I think it's because it was never talked about. You think you have one sad day and you're like, I'm depressed. I have depression. That's it. I'm sad. When that's not what it is. Or you have 2 sad days, or you have a hard month, right? Like we all go through that. That doesn't necessarily you have depression compared to somebody who's like, I'm fine, but I'm sad. Like I don't understand what's going on. And then on the same other end of the spectrum is that I think when you say depression, you think black hole. You think this person's sitting there crying all the time. Like you said, right? They're locked in their room and they're not coming out, but it's not like that. It was Cody and I.
An adult,
It's not, I mean, not even as, you know, some kids will go through it and they'll be like, oh, I thought they were fine. That's the excuse that we use in society. They looked fine. They thought they were fine. I didn't see them struggle. They were happy. They played. They showed up. They did this. They did that. It's the freaking highlight reel that you guys are seeing. That's why. And I think that's the problem, is because you're kind of like, you're stuck like in this little like track, right? Well, I had one sad day, I'm depressed. Okay. And if you're not, and you're actually depressed, well, I don't have my life's not as hard as that person. I shouldn't be this way.
Shouldn't be
like
upset,
like I don't have depression as bad as them. I shouldn't feel this way. I have a newborn baby. Like I should be so happy. And you discredit yourself, right? Like not that you want to credit yourself to having depression, but also it's like, you have to acknowledge that I'm having these feelings and I'm feeling this way. And these things are happening in order for you to get help. Right. And so it's kind of like you're stuck in this like never ending cycle, or you do better. You have it and you're doing better. And you're like, the thing that comes to my mind when I think of like my depression or anxiety is that TikTok audio that says, no, please, no, not today. Like not again, not this again. You know what audio I'm talking about?
No, but I'm sure you'll find it and send it to me.
I'll send it to you. It's like, she's really sad. And she's like, don't judge me. Like I picked up on that. It's really sad. Like they'll, you know, maybe it's like a friend moving or something like that is like the trend that TikTok uses. But like this one girl said, like, I think she had a baby, and that's what kind of put it into perspective for me. And she was like, feeling yourself like slipping back into postpartum depression when you fought so hard to get out of it. And she was like, no, please, not this again. And I'm sure if you watch TikTok, like a lot of you might have seen it. And I was like, that's such a good sound, because like nobody wants to be there. Right. It's a stigma because it's like, oh, you want this. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't think you guys realize how fast my heart races when my anxiety goes. Like
like how silly you feel in the moment too. Cause it's like, I know this is so far fetched, but like at the same time, it's like, I can't help it. Like, this is how my brain is. And then add on top of it, it's like, as a military spouse, I think sometimes you live in hiding of it because one, you want to like appear like you have it all together for your spouse. And then like, you don't know who you can trust. Like, I know I can tell you, right? I know I can tell you, like, I'm struggling. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pull myself out of here. But then also like, if you like spare yourself to maybe a close friend, you don't know, you can only hope, right, that they're not going to use that against you. But like, Felicia is my only military spouse friend that I would tell, like, I'm not doing okay, because you just don't know people. So you don't know if people are going to be caring or if you're going to have the MPs on your door and they're going to be like, so-and-so from down the street said,
knock, knock.
You know, it's isolating, especially to have something like that, because it's like, I want to appear strong. And I also don't want anybody to see me as weak and vulnerable and like a flight risk, I guess, like for your kids, for your spouse and all that. And especially in our community, it's like, it's really easy to hide behind the mask and just be like, I'm fine, I'll be okay. And I get that because I've been there too. So that's why it's so important to be able to find something that works. Like if you feel yourself slipping, if you need to go to the gym, if you need to read, if you need to craft, if you need medicine, if you need therapy is 100% covered by TRICARE. No referral needed. Like you can go get therapy.
You can go to TRICARE.
It doesn't matter. You can go through the military, or you can even go like off post. I've always gone off post, always covered 100%. And I get a ton of sessions. But I'm telling you, if you're struggling, you do not have to struggle alone. Find a family member, find that close milso friend to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that you have to find somebody that you can talk to, because I was raised to be independent, right? Like you don't need nobody, you don't need nothing, you and you alone. Not saying like it's kind of hard to explain when you say that metaphor, but like my dad always wanted me to know, like you didn't need, like you can do anything you put your mind to, what you put your heart to, right? So like I was raised to be independent. So when you talk about it, you're like, I don't want to seem weak. I don't want to reach out to these people and be like, hey, I'm having a hard time. But I think it's so important to talk about your feelings, because honestly, it's hard if you're not locked in a room crying, it's really hard to see that you're struggling. When you keep it to yourself, it's really hard. I know Cody. Cody knows me. So when Cody pulls back or I pull back, we're like, hey, what's going on? Like, knock, knock,
That's
knock.
where we were on Monday. I was like, excuse me, you've left me on bed too many times.
It's like,
what's the
your
problem?
best friend is here. And I think you need a person, whether that's your sister, whether that's your mom, whether that's your spouse, whatever it is, right? Like our spouses are so busy. So it's easy for me to like lean into Cody and be like, I'm having a hard day. Like I called her and I was like, I wasn't texting her back just because like sometimes I just zone out, and she was like, what's going on? And I was like, I need to cry and I don't know. And she was like, okay, well, get in the bath, cry, and then call me later. And I was like, okay. She's like, but don't ignore me no more. And so I think you have to have those people in your corner, like the ones who are not going to judge you, but the ones who are going to be like, I got you, friend. And I think it's important to know that it's okay. It's okay to struggle with your mental health. It's okay. A lot of people do it. It's okay to talk about it. It makes me sad. Because like, I know how I don't cry.
It's isolating. It's so isolating. I think especially when you're new somewhere, you don't know many people. And then it's like, that's an easy time for it to creep in. That's an easy time.
Or the hardships of life, right? Like Cody and I have talked, and I think that's why it's why I really wanted to talk about mental health this month, is because Cody and I have had a hard probably 4 months. Like it's been really hard for us, and we are all about positivity and like not dragging people down, right? Like if you move to Jackson or Benning or something like that, your house is going to go to shit. Like ours has absolutely not. We're not here to say that, but to say that we haven't had a hard time is not a lie either. And so when you're like have all of the struggles of life and then your mental health, it gets overwhelming, and you need somebody in your corner to be like, hey, it's okay. Talk to me. What's going on? Like, I need you here. It's important for you to be here. And I don't think we hear that enough. Not even if you're struggling with your mental health. My spouse needs to hear that. Yeah. You're important. It's important for me to have you here. Like, we want you here. I need you here. You know, Cody, I need her here. She can't leave me. Like, she might have left me over there, but like, I need her on this planet. Right. For me, like I need her. And you know, there's other people in my life. Like you just need to be reminded, no matter how strong you are, right? Like I don't like to show my emotions. I don't like it. I don't keep it all in. You know, that's how I was, just keep it tucked down in and don't show no weakness. But there's sometimes that I'm just like, you can't, you have to lean on somebody, because this life is hard as it is. And so we wanted to come on, and we just wanted to tell you that we need you. We think you're important. You know, welcome to coffee. We'll be your new mental health besties. We're still winging it. We're still, you know, moving through it.
At least for the month of May. We're not perfect at it, but listen, after you listen to this podcast, do us a favor, go on your phone and pick like 3 or 4 of your closest friends and just send them like, I love you. Like, that's it. Because sometimes you never know, even if they're your closest friends, you have no idea what is going on inside of their head. And if this podcast is any truth to that, it's just, you don't know what somebody's battling with, because so often we put on that brave face of motherhood. We put on the brave face of being a military spouse. We put on the brave face of just existing in 2023. Okay. You got to really put on the armor of God, the full armor of God, to be out here in these streets. Okay. So listen, text your friend, just say, I love you, or I was thinking of you, something like that. You don't even know how much it can make somebody feel, or it will spark a conversation that you may not even know you needed. So many times I'll just text a friend like, I was just thinking of you. And it spirals into like, oh my gosh, like, what have you been up to? Tell me about the kids and stuff like that. Life gets so busy and it's so easy to feel isolated. And, we're always telling you, like, you got to keep those connections. You got to make the connections. And that's another huge thing. So
I'm going to say on that note, though, when you text them, like if you do get those conversations, right? Because sometimes you're going to get a conversation that says, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And you have to, I think it's very important that you have to be open. You might not understand how to navigate it. When Cody's going through the ringer, I know how mine works. I don't know how hers works. Like, I don't know like what exact thoughts are going through your head. I only know what I go through. And so I'm like, what do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah.
Is it
and that's
kids?
sometimes all
Can
you
I
need
call
to
you?
say. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you have to be open, not like
the problem.
It's not fixing it, but you're not also scared of it. Like, don't be like, oh my God, don't. Like, you should get some help. You should call somebody else.
Call
Text
me
your
next
husband
week when you feel better.
Right? Like, let me get the MPs on your door. Don't do that because that puts us right back into the circle where we're like,
I think the best way to approach that would just be like, do you want to talk? Like if they say like, I'm not doing good, don't like grill them. Cause I know sometimes it's so exhausting. You don't want to interrogation. Do you want to talk? Like, no, not right now. I'm telling you right now, if you give the invitation, even if they don't take it right away, when they are ready to talk, they'll be like, okay, listen, so I was spiraling, but this is going on. But if you meet them with a judgment, you are closing that chapter forever. I'm telling you right now, so many times, because nobody who has mental health wants to feel like a burden. Like that's not the reason why we don't talk about it. I don't want you to sympathize with me and treat me differently. I
think that's the big thing right there. I don't want you to treat me differently. I don't want you to look at me like I'm some failure or some mistake. Like, you have anxiety and depression. Or you're not a good mom to your kid.
Yeah. Or like I got to keep her kind of far away because like, what if I upset her? What if she spirals? No, like I'm fine. But sometimes you just want to unload what you're going through.
you know that audio that's like, I don't need a therapist. I got my bestie. And it's like, you and your bestie need therapy. And I think that's true. That's what we're going to end this episode on is you and your bestie need therapy. Go together, find a friend, go. We're going to put the resources. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about that the other day is we're going to put the resources on our website and we will share them sometime on Coffee that you can get therapy because I've seen the questions on it. Your spouse can go to therapy if they need it. They're allowed to go to therapy.
Love therapy.
We are a therapist.
Hey, she's my therapist and I will find one here. I'm telling you right now, it is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Sometimes you sit there thinking like, I don't know what to talk about. And then you're like, oh, wow, my time's already up. And then I don't know. I always felt so good after I left therapy. Even if it wasn't, I unpacked some heavy shit in therapy, but even when it was times just like talking about motherhood or whatever, like, please. Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have like an outside opinion too, right? Like not my mom telling me or Cody knows me and my family and everything else, like she's on my side, whatever happens, she's on my side. And sometimes you need that, but sometimes you need to be like, hey, what are you doing? Stop that. Don't do that. Which Cody does that too. But like, I need somebody else to tell me, okay, she's mean.
No, I totally get it. You do definitely need that person that's like, that doesn't know you, doesn't know what you like. That just doesn't know you, that an outside voice that says like, you're kind of wrong on this one, or, hey, you're right on this one. But y'all, this is your reminder, go text your friend and go look for some therapy.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media to catch the latest.
#SpillTheCoffee.